Hello, children. Uncle Michel has a bedtime story for you. Long, long ago, when your grandfather was your age, people needed to put their data on media. Now, we're not talking about putting it online. We're not talking about a CD-ROM or a floppy disk. No, we're talking about tape drives. Yes, you remember tape drives? No, of course you don't. But in very old movies, you can see them. You know, these big things that look like refrigerators, blinking lights. And you get these reels of tape that go one way and then they go another way. Those tapes. And so they found a way of scrunching all their data together into one big file that they could put on a tape. And they called it a tape archive. TAR for short. But then they figured tapes are expensive. So what are we going to do? How are we going to make that big scrunched file smaller? And they came up with a number of different ways. And all those ways, believe it or not, are still with us. So, go to bed now, children. Don't have any nightmares about compression file formats. Good night. Now that the children are in bed, let's talk about file compression on Haiku. Yeah, tarballs are that old. They came before DOS, probably before Unix. They're ancient. And they're still supported on Haiku today. Yeah, computers come and go, operating systems come and go, but compression formats live forever. By default, we have on a Haiku system bzip2, gzip, what else? P7zip, and unzip and zip. These are separate packages. But of course, if you really come across an ancient format, a RAR file, an ARG file, an LH file, well, then all you have to do is install the right utility for it. Right, here we have ancient decompression routines for old formats in the Amiga, Atari computers and some other systems. What else have we got here? bzip2. Oh, sorry, that one's active. Let's just switch that to. Right. Let's see. LH. The mighty LH. You hardly ever come across that anymore. Elzop. Elzip. What else? szip. There's just no end to these things. Right? Unrar. This one is actually worth installing because you will see it can do rar, zip, cab, arch, JZH. I've never even heard of that one. Tar and oops, I'm moving myself here. GZ and tar GZ, BZ2 and tar BZ2, ace, UUE, jar. Well, the jar is really just a zip file that's been renamed. It can even rip apart an ISO, right? 7Z, 7Z for the Americans, XZ and just .z files. So that is quite a versatile little thing. You might want to consider installing that. Right, but what else have we got here? XR. So most of these formats are very, very old. But the one we actually use on Haiku is zip. So the other ones that are on your system, tarballs you can handle, that's TGZ files, TGZ files for the Americans, and 7-zip files, which have a 7Z extension usually. That actually is the only one that is more recent. But when I say recent, it's been around for 25 years by now. And so we are going to have a quick look at how to handle zip files in Haiku, because those are the ones that we actually use. Zip is also the only format that has been hacked back in the BIOS days already to allow you to store extended attributes. I mean, you can make a tarball in Haiku, and if you're going to exchange files with friends who use Linux, then you can do that. But you know, all those lovely extended attributes that we like to boast about, they'll be gone, right? And if you're exchanging files with your Windows using friends, you do have some, right? Then yeah, you can still use zip, and they'll never even notice the extended attributes stored inside your zip file. For their purposes, they just won't exist. Okay, but when we exchange files with each other, we use zip. Interestingly, I just had a discussion about that on the forums. There's only one other format that can actually store extended attributes, and that's HPKG. Yeah, it wasn't designed for it, obviously, but it can be done. If you really wanted to, you could have a HP zip format that's been hacked to stored data rather than install something. Yeah, could be done. But what for? We have zip. Works fine. So, okay. So, let's first create a zip file. Right. Now, you can use a terminal. You don't need to do anything special to store the extended attributes. Just make your zip file like you would do. Right. Let's see. Zip. And there's your help. You see? There's not a second screen of help unless you could do zip h2. Alright. So if you've made zip files, anywhere in any operating system in the last 30 years, none of this is going to be unfamiliar. But we're going to do it the Haiku way now. Okay, select a directory. Right click, add-ons, Zip-O-Matic. And here we go. And there we are. We have now made a zip file. You can rename it to anything you like. And of course, since this is Haiku, you don't even have to keep that zip extension. Alright. You can call it my config archive. And when we get info, here, kind zip archive. Or another way to do that, add-ons, file type, application zip. And Haiku is the last man standing on this. All other operating systems now more or less insist on file extensions, which is a backward step, if you ask me. Early Mac OS didn't have it. That's where BOS and then Haiku actually got the idea. But modern Mac OS in the last 20 years has insisted on extensions. Anyway, so we've seen that if you select one file or one directory, it's going to make a zip file called that name plus .zip. What's going to happen if we select two? Alright, let's do that. It calls it archive.zip. Now, I've got my machine set to English. I'm not entirely sure what happens if your machine is set to German or Serbo-Croatian or Japanese, but there will be a sort of standardized name for it. Okay, so the default, very same default, is, I think, not the highest compression level, but just below that, and all directories to be recursed into the zip file. So again, how are we going to get this stuff out of here now? We're going to just open it, and we get something called Expander, which I'm sure you've seen. You can also get right there. Alright, so let's show the content, and that's quite a lot of content. Now, unfortunately, Expander is all or nothing. You expand the entire file. There are other utilities that let you just pick one file and expand that. We'll get to them. We're not going to talk about them today, though. First of all, a destination. So I am going to make a new folder on my desktop. Very imaginatively going to call it unzip. And because I don't want it all over my desktop. Unzip. Yeah, select unzip. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to say expand. And there it is. That is the zip file that I just created. Right, archive zip. It's now been unspanded into this new directory. So there's some behavior there that we would like to see it do, and it's got settings. Right. Automatically expand files. I would normally not have that because I just like to have a look at what I'm going to expand. Right, close window when done expanding. Right, I leave that on. When this thing's done expanding, you know, I'm not going to expand another one usually, so it can just go away. Right, now here we're going to select the unzip directory that I just created and set that as where all my files should be unzipped. Open destination file after extraction. You saw that happening here. It is the default. And you want to switch it off if you are going to expand 100, because then your desktop will be littered with windows. But normally I have that on. And automatically show contents listing. I always switch that on. Right, so we now have a look. Alright, I can see what's going on here, what will be expanded, and I can see where it's going to go, which is my normal unzip folder. I can still change it, of course. Okay, so we've already expanded it. Let's see what happens if we try to expand over that. Nothing at all. It just blows over the old one. So there's no safeguard there. You know, if you get 5 subtly different versions, you know, then that is too bad for you. Okay, so what else? Now I have tested expander with tarballs, and I think it will handle 7 zips as well. Not sure about bzip2 files, but haven't seen one of those for years anyway. But it has one other one other rather interesting size. I want to, yeah, let me just grab the smallest little H package on my system and copy it. Cancel. Cancel and copy it back. Let's see, copy to desktop. There we go. Right. So this is an H package, and of course normally double click it, it will open in, what else? Haiku Depot. The only other application that will open an H package is Expander. This is sometimes very useful because sometimes you want to see what's inside. Alright, so let's have a look what happens. I'm going to just say I don't want it in unzip, just give it its own little directory there. And oh, destination doesn't, would you like to create it? Yes, thank you very much. Right, and there we are. And if we now go to and say don't hide the dot files, there's the package info. So yes, it did actually unzip it. Now sometimes you want to get at the contents of a H package and see how it's constructed, change something within it maybe for your own purposes, and this is how you do it. You open it in Expander. Okay, so and that, my dear friends, is how we deal with zip files in Haiku. Right, so it's all part of the system already. There's not much that you need to really worry about. You know, you can use Zip-O-Matic to make a zip file and Expander to expand it. Okay, so that's it for today. This video is much too long already. Bye.